All right, it's that time of the morning where we get to talk about the world of business. This is Smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. 32 minutes past 6 a.m. Almost at 33, it's 32 minutes past 6 a.m. Still early in the morning. It's a beautiful Monday, and you're listening to a Business Express brought to you by Switch. My name is Ayokunmi, and it's going to be a great morning, a great Monday, and of course, it's going to be 15 minutes of great information coming your way. Join us on WhatsApp as you always do by sharing your messages with us on 0809 444 0981 0809 444 That is the WhatsApp number. You can also join the live stream on YouTube. Yes, we're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. This morning, we'll be talking about Nigeria's aviation industry and a national carrier. This particular issue has been raging back and forth for quite a bit of time. And we are here now. Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, made a couple of statements and or declarations over the weekend. And we'll take a look at that in the next 15 minutes or thereabouts. Joining me to give some insight into this one is Deji Jegede. He's an aviation analyst at Thisday Newspaper. Very good morning to you, Deji. Great to have you on the show.
Well, morning, Ayo. Thanks for having me, and morning to all your listeners.
Absolute pleasure. Okay, right off the bat, what do you make of the federal government, saying that it's not going to invest a single kobo, not 1 cent in a national carrier? We've had this issue of the national carrier back and forth. Of course, remember the whole brouhaha over Nigeria Air and so on and so forth. But the story for another day. But what do you make of this declaration right now?
Well, so this was a statement the Minister of Aviation shared on his X page yesterday to further clarify what he had said at the book launch on Friday, which was titled 100 Years of Aviation in Nigeria. So the minister went on to say the federal government was open to proposals from private and public entities, both in and outside the country, and truly, ones that truly benefit Nigeria and Nigerians in establishing a national carrier. So just to give a bit of background to the establishment of a national carrier, if you remember in September 2023, Mr. Keyamo suspended the move to establish a national carrier less than 2 weeks after he was sworn into office. And if I remember correctly, this was just about 4 months after his predecessor at the time, Mr. Hadi Sirika, had unveiled the airline.
Are you there? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you broke off for like a second or two, but you're back now. I can hear you clearly.
Right. So what was the last thing you heard?
You were talking about Festus Keyamo in when he when he made that suspension, basically.
Yeah. So he made the suspension. Yeah. So and this was just obviously 4 months prior to this was 4 months after his predecessor, Hadi Sirika, had unveiled the airline in May that year after several failed promises. And obviously later on, the House of Representatives Committee on Aviation later called for the suspension of the establishment of Nigeria Air, and recommended the prosecution of those involved in unveiling the national carrier at the time, describing the whole exercise as a fraud. And frankly, to be honest with you, the whole thing was a farce. But this administration, they're looking to take things in a different position from the previous administration. So they are looking more towards a private sector-led model in aviation development, which would be in line with the broader government's efforts to reduce public expenditure and enhance, the industry competitiveness. The government is focused on supporting local carriers to thrive. They are drafting policies that will, support the growth and development of local airlines. They've brought policies that have enabled airlines to access aircraft for their operations. This is including the revised insurance regulation on leased aircraft. They've revised the regulation, which has made obviously aircraft acquisition easier for operators, and it gives them access to new and more modern aircraft. So, there's also the resolution of the trapped airline fund, which the minister himself facilitated the clearance, which was approximately $850 million that were owed or was owed to international airlines that were operating in the country. We've got the expansion of the BASA agreement, which that's the bilateral air service agreements, which has opened new international routes for Nigeria. There's the development of the MRO facilities, that's the maintenance, repair, overhaul facilities, lots of infrastructure enhancements, reactivation of the Lagos airport's second runway, for better coordination as well. They've relocated the final headquarters, plowing through lots of legislative and institutional reforms. And also in this is the promotion of local content as well. And they actually brought in the consumer protection initiative as well to provide, passengers with a platform to, report their grievances, promote accountability, and improve service quality, across, the sector. So all these, actions, all these are actions that will restore confidence in the sector, boost revenue for potential, boost revenue. Potential investors will find all these very attractive. And this overall would, reposition the Nigerian aviation sector as a beacon of excellence across Africa and the world. So this is the reason why I just feel, these are the things they're doing rather than actually put in, a kobo or penny or whatever you want to call it in there. So these are the sort of this is the new strategy that the government is pursuing.
Fantastic. Now, those are the sort of things that we actually love to hear. The developments and everything being put in place to ensure that Nigeria's aviation sector is at the level that it's supposed to be. But you actually alluded to the local players, as it were, in terms of the airlines. Now, looking at the indigenous airlines we have in the country right now, we talk about Air Peace. They currently fly overseas. Now, is there any reason that a domestic airline cannot be a national carrier? Is it a capacity issue, or is there something else bigger at play here?
Right. So we need to establish what it is we want. Do we want a national carrier or do we want a flag carrier? That's the question. The two are similar but yet different. So let's try and distinguish between the two. So to give a bit of context, a national carrier is often owned and operated by the government, and usually these airlines are typically used to connect the nation's domestic and international routes, and it's often a symbol of a country's identity on the global stage. So examples of these are some of these Middle Eastern airlines, Gulf Air, Etihad, Emirates, and we've got a few in Africa, Air Botswana, Air Burkina, Ethiopia Airlines, just to name a few. And the flag carrier, on the other hand, is an airline with a strong connection to its own country, so regardless of its ownership. And many of these flag carriers are have private and public company ownerships. And obviously these aircraft are, these airlines, are, registered in their given states. They enjoy preferential rights. A lot of privileges are afforded to them by the government. And the thing with flag carriers as well, they hold a certain amount of significance in the aviation industry, both financial and symbolically. For example, some passengers would opt to fly with a national flag carrier, for a sense of pride that it gives to them. Some passengers will sometimes choose to fly with a flag carrier over other airlines due to the image that they are safer and less likely to encounter financial difficulty. Examples of these are, British Airways, Aer Lingus, Lufthansa, KLM and stuff. We have very well-established local airlines that, if well supported and afforded with the right business environments and conditions, are more than capable of being, the nation's flag carrier. So Air Peace comes into that into that bracket amongst, a few others that we do have.
Okay. Now, looking at all that, thanks for the distinction between a flag carrier and a national carrier. Now, talking about a national carrier, for Nigeria, are there any benefits to having one?
In the past, yes. In the past, airlines that, were usually owned, by the government, by the country, were usually considered great for, international trade and defense. It's seen as a symbol of national identity, and it does represent a nation's presence on the world stage, particularly in international air travel. The benefits is both domestic, it gives you both domestic and international connectivity. A national carrier will connect various parts of the country, all your domestic routes, as well as connect you to the rest of the world on your international routes. A national carrier obviously enhances the country's aviation sector, boosts economic growth, lots of job creation, and improves the global image of the country. It supports national interest as well as security, and it does promote international business as well. So these are added advantages that comes with having a national carrier. Obviously, there are drawbacks and disadvantages as well. So yeah.
Okay, I mean, that being said, please, what are said disadvantages of having a national carrier? Of course, there are pros, there are cons. So what are the cons?
Right. So if you remember, we had a national carrier once, Nigerian Airways, and
yes,
despite its initial success, it was faced with numerous challenges, including mismanagement, corruption, political interference, overstaffing, and at the time of closure, it had debts totaling $840 million thereabout as of 2024.
wow.
Had a poor safety record as well. Yes. So, and some of the other drawbacks from having a national carrier would be aging fleet, poor maintenance. You've got competition from private and foreign airlines, and some of these national carriers tend to lack a proper strategic vision, which obviously leads to poor financial sustainability. Then they tend to run up, high debts. The government would have to subsidize, and these airlines would have to rely on government bailouts, which usually is unsustainable and eventually would, lead to, to an eventual collapse. But despite all these challenges, there are success stories, in this regards. You've got, Ethiopian Airlines, for example. It's profitable, professionally run, managed with minimal interference. You've got Singapore Airlines as well, government linked, but operates independently, and it's got, a strong commercial focus. So this can be done, it can be done, but it has to be done properly.
All right, good to actually hear that, DG. I mean, as we wrap the conversation this morning, I know that at different points in time, there have been, so many prior attempts at having a national carrier, and they have all failed. But looking at where we are now, looking at all the things that are being done, all the policies being put in place, and the moves that are being made, do you think at any time in the nearest future we can, boast of having?
Oh, excuse me. Well, so so that there's been many attempts at having trying to have a national carrier that has failed in the past for various reasons. Lack of clear strategic vision. We've had legal challenges. There has been concerns over ownership structure. One of the issues we had at the last one was, if you remember, there was the Federal High Court in Lagos ruled at the time that the sale of a 49% stake in Nigeria Air to Ethiopian Airlines was invalid, and that halted the sale as well. So you've got court injunctions, you've got opposition from domestic airlines as well, and so many issues in obtaining the necessary air operator certificates. Yes, but it can be done if things like political meddling is eradicated. The governments have a genuine interest in making sure it works and just running independently. But personally, my own opinion would be to it's more geared towards having a flag carrier than a national carrier. It breeds competition, and competition breeds success. So that's what I feel the government should concentrate more on in terms of moving forward. Provide infrastructures for airlines to come in and thrive, and businesses will boom.
That sounds absolutely simple. And hey, we hope that these all these things can actually be put in place and everything works out for the greater good. I mean, a flag carrier that actually works for the benefit of each and every single Nigerian out there. Thank you so much for all the insight and joining me this morning on Business Express. I've been talking to Deji Jegede. He's an aviation analyst at Thisday Newspaper. Thank you so much, Deji, for being a part of the show.
Thank you, Ayo. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Have a great Monday and a great week as well. Alrighty, thank you so much for being a part of Business Express this morning, brought to you by InterSwitch. Keep you tuned to the smooth breakfast. It's going to be Great music coming your way. And 7:30, we'll take a look at the papers, the headlines, major stories on Freshly Pressed.